All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We are live from Cards and Culture. This is probably our third or fourth or fifth episode, something like that. I don't know, from the shop. We're relatively new, but I am super fired up today because I have a guest and probably one of our biggest guests ever. And like I said, everything with Cards and Culture, this is right in our wheelhouse. So DJ Skee, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so fired up for our episode today, man.
I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the first thing I want to do is I got to introduce you to our listeners. But the thing is, like, I know you. It's so crazy. I was fired up when I figured out you were doing Project70 stuff in my world in sports cards, but I know you from music, entertainment, that kind of stuff. So I would love to give you the floor and kind of introduce yourself and let our listeners know how you identify yourself, what you do, because you do so many extraordinary things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a combination of everything. Obviously, I'm DJ Skee, so people know me from the music. That's my foundation. I've been fortunate enough to work and introduce the world to a lot of the bigger and well-known artists that we see today. And, along that journey, sports has always been a passion of mine. So to be able to do projects like Project70 and everything that I've done in the card space is a dream come true. Fortunate enough, I just landed back from Minneapolis, where we had our, right when we're taping this, it was our first home game with fans in 630 something days. So really excited to
recording in progress.
Sorry.
Good. Really excited to be back with fans and to be able to do what I love, right? Which is combining my love of music, my love of sports, and figuring out how to make businesses from that. And I've been fortunate enough to have a long career in this industry that's usually unforgiving and do a lot of different things and see a lot of different places and have a lot of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I follow you on Instagram, so I saw were you at the Vikings game?
Yeah. I do all the entertainment. I DJ all the games there. So
that's awesome. And is that where you're born and raised?
I wasn't born there, but I grew up in Minnesota, so I'm still loyal to all my Minnesota sports teams. So that's why you can see the Twins banner behind me from the 91 World Series. We just did a 30th anniversary drop that I did. That was a dream come true to, of course, my Vikings. You can probably see some helmets and stuff. I'm in the little moving offices, so it's a little hectic in here.
Nice. No, I love it. Do you live up there now?
I'm still in LA. So
okay. Yeah. That's what I figured. I was going to say the winter's out in Minnesota. I feel like LA's got to have that beat for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in and out for the games. It's fun to go back and stuff, but I've got too much to do out here. So
absolutely. All right, cool. Well, let's give our listeners a little bit of background on you. So again, I know you from mixtapes and music and different things, but you've had TV shows. You started your own radio network. So talk to me a little bit about what was the first thing for you. What was the first thing in entertainment, artistry? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so growing up, I thought I was going to be a pro athlete, right? Like I was a baseball player, like you, and I was like, oh, and then I got into music and started DJing and realized that was my career path. And I just was kind of laser focused from that point on, and was able to kind of work my way around and hustle around. Started off doing shows and selling mixtapes back in my high school. Ended up doing a radio show when I was 16 out in Minneapolis. And worked my way up to, connecting with the CEO of Loud and Sony Records. He offered me a job after I sent him kind of a marketing proposal and outline on ideas that I had for his label and stuff that I thought he was doing wrong. And he loved it so much, he ended up moving me to, offering me a job. So I moved to LA, figured a way to graduate high school early. And, the rest is kind of history. So it's crazy.
Dude, I love that. I love hearing the stories. I actually, I had a conversation with Blake Jameson last week, and I just love hearing artists' stories, right? We're all artists in a different way. And in the same way, it just happened for me. I was the same way. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. It worked out for me in my career, but in the second phase of my career, it's no different, right? I have passion, I have creativity, I have different visions and stuff. So hearing the entrepreneurship journey and just how they started is so amazing for me. So I give you props that you're just like, you know what? Here's a marketing proposal. I think we can do this better. And that lands you into your job and just kind of opens up all the doors for you, Yeah.
Yeah.
So was there a big break? Because I feel like when I played baseball, it was all right, you get called up or you win a championship or whatever it is, right? It kind of gives you that break and puts you on the map. Was there something in your career that kind of gave you that opening or whatever?
Yeah, it's a combination. It's you prepare yourself. It is luck, right? Everything's luck. The fact that I was able to get connected with Steve through another DJ I know, but you put in that work to make that luck happen. It doesn't just randomly bump into you on the street generally. So luck is the combination of like preparation and just being ready for that. And so for me, it was like getting into music and doing everything that I could. Like I when I connected with Steve, I thought the coolest thing would be getting like a Wu-Tang Clan shirt, because or some of the stuff from Loud Records that he was doing. That would have been like my dream scenario, and was able to parlay it into an actual position in something. Wasn't even what I expected, but just kind of rode with the flow and rode with the wave. But yeah, lots of hard work and lots of grinding, right? Like I used to stay up all night, when we had to duplicate like CDs for mixed CDs, just like, changing it because it was done in like 2x time. So could get 2 CDs done in hours. So like waking up every 30 minutes, setting the alarm. My radio show, my first radio show was, 4 a.m. on a Saturday night in a small community station in the hood in Minneapolis, back in when wow. Minneapolis had the highest murder rate in the country. So it was like insane, like just even getting there and waking up. But, all those things are the moments that, make you and help set you up for that. Like it doesn't come without hard work, at least not in my case. So
no, luck. Like I hate when people are like, yeah, you got lucky, you did this. Like, yeah, well, he put himself in that position to be lucky, right? Like you gotta intuitively follow things to get yourself that opportunity. 100%.
Yep, exactly.
What about artists that you've worked with? Because in the DJ world, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Again, this is might be my ignorance speaking, but you guys DJs are creating beats, right? You guys are working with artists, and then they're going to put lyrics onto tracks, right?
It depends. Yeah, like it depends on electronic. It's shifted so many things, right? Okay. So like in the hip hop scene, it was us about exposing and introducing, and hip hop DJs are a little bit different. They're not always the producers. You kind of have like even Khaled's not really, he produces a little bit, but he's bringing in other things. He's more presenting it. In the era I came up, it was the mixtape era. So we were putting together those projects and finding the right beats, and kind of almost like producing and A&Ring an album from the way that I came out. In the electronic side, then you have all the big DJs that are like producing the remixes with their teams and putting those out themselves with it. So there's different variations. I've kind of walked across all of them, but the foundation for me was definitely like mixtape and radio, like introducing and being on the biggest stations in the country and biggest platforms, and, introducing the world to Post Malone, to Kendrick Lamar, to these guys as their first interviews, Travis Scott. And, on the mixtape side, it was, definitely, although I did a lot before, my foot in the door. And I guess the real time I got that notoriety was producing for Game, when was in the middle of 50 Cent beef and producing 300 bars and putting that out, and then doing all those mixtapes with him, and then kind of becoming the West Coast mixtape guy and working with Snoop and Kendrick and many others over the course of that. So that was kind of my journey.
I love it, man. It's so crazy to hear you casually say those names, right? As a fan, somebody who's on the outside looking in, it's like, you just hear these guys and you don't think it's that simple or that easy, or not easy, right? Not easy, but in the sense of, for you, it's just natural, it's normal life, right? And for me, like I listen to it and I'm like, these guys are so hella talented. Like, it's like crazy how all these people came into a room together and created this. My biggest question is, like, as a producer DJ, how do you said you've, introduced Kendrick Lamar and Post Malone to their first interviews. How do you know those are the guys, right? Like in baseball, for me, I've just watched the game a billion times, and like I can know when this guy's throwing good or this guy has this swing that's different, right? It's a sound. Is that kind of the same world? You just have seen it a million times and you're like, yo, this is fucking different.
Same thing, right? Yeah, that's a great analogy, right? Like you're almost like a scout, and you can identify and see those things and believe in it. And you also see the groundswell, right? Like most scouts aren't just going out to a random field and watching a person play baseball. They've heard about it from a lot of other people, right? So like you get to that point where like the bigger scouts then can kind of come find you, and you get that word of mouth. And then oftentimes too, there's been plenty of artists that we played and believed in, and it just, it hasn't connected for whatever reason, the same way that there's been athletes that are top prospects and it just doesn't pan out, right? So it's very similar in that analogy. It's like, being in the scene, being in the mix, having a great network of people and people that you trust. And like, I think one of my great skills is always just been identifying trends early, whether it's products, brands, kind of consumer trends, and jumping in to, kind of be a voice to amplify, I guess, those things that were happening. And so, but it's very similar to scouting. I'd never thought of it that way, but it's a great analogy.
Yeah, I was just thinking of it because like people ask me all the time, like, how did you know that guy was going to be good? Or like, 5 years. I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it. I just saw it and my brain told me he's good, right? Like, I don't know. So that's why I was like, I'm wondering there, you said all those names. I'm like, just how do you have that talent? And I guess you just around it, like you said, and that's not luck either. It's a skill set. You've just put in the time, the hours, the man hours, like the grind. And then it's just like, oh, this shit hits you in the face when it's in front of you. It's like, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, dude.
Yeah. Is that kind of what happened in sports cards and this kind of stuff? Or was that, like you say, you like identifying trends and seeing things? Now this was, there was a lot of murmur 2017, 2018 about sports cards and things changing. And was that something similar, or you'd always been in sports cards and collectibles?
Yeah, it's funny because sports cards were my first business when I was a kid, right? Like I started selling them out of my garage when I was like 8 and created my own little shop, even though nobody was visiting. I like was running it myself and like maybe invite a friend or two over and do that. So, it stuck with me. I've always collected things over the years and have, just a crazy collection from sports and music. And, I was always big in the sneaker scene, and what started happening in cards a few years ago reminded me a lot of sneakers. And so I really spent, time focusing and kind of relearning and I've been watching it, and I've been doing so much with sports over the years with the teams and with content, doing a ton of sneakers, and always been collecting things, and I've been buying cards like forever. Right. But was able to really dive in and take focus a couple years ago, because I saw that stuff was going to, I felt normal, and it felt natural. Like it was going to be a next progression, almost like after sneakers, and you're seeing the market explode now. And, I just thought that there was going to be so many opportunities into it. And it was something that's so fun and so close and passionate to me, that it just made sense to really make it I remember the day I was like, I'm actually, beyond just collecting, I'm going to make this a key pillar of kind of my business and the things that I do, just because I thought that I could, help introduce a whole new audience to it and grow the entire market, which would be better for everybody else, and try to bring in some of those casual people and people that are on the fence, and be that real kind of, even with the series that we do, like Card Clout that I would do with Whistle, it's like bringing in people like Snoop Dogg to create content around it. But it's entertaining to watch, even if you're not a card nerd, because it's him telling stories about Tom Brady when I pull out Tom Brady's rookie card, or, him, creating, we traded for his, I traded my Topps Chrome Kobe rookie for one of his cars. So creating moments like that are accessible, even if you're not into cards, to help kind of the whole market and everybody do it and be accessible. I think one challenge in the sector is that, it's very difficult to get in and learn. People are like, wait, what's a grade? Why is that necessary? What's the difference between the companies? Wait, why is the 9 so much less value than the 10? Aren't they the same card? You have to explain and do those things. So trying to, play my role in that. But yes, I saw that kind of trend happening, and that's why I've jumped in. It just was something that I've always loved and been passionate about. So.
Yeah, I love hearing that too, and I feel like it's similar to my story with cards. Is the community aspect of it was the fun part, and I think a lot of the different ventures that you're in are based off of that. You got to build your community, you got to interact with your people, and that's why even you and I connected on Twitter, right? It's it's funny how cards went for me, because when I was playing ball, it was I got in and I started doing autograph signings with the card companies, right? So it was a little weird that they were paying me to be, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't collect cards. I'm playing against these guys, all this. So sneakers were my pivot, and I kind of collected sneakers a little bit and understood that, it was a little bit cooler type thing, but as I transitioned out of baseball and started getting back into cards, I was like, you know what? All these people want to do is connect with the story with the card, right? There's always that's the difference between it's the same card, but somebody pays a little bit more for it because there's a little story behind it. There's sentimental value. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, a lot of collectors pay premiums for autographs and things like that, or access to athletes. I have that ability. I was professional while I played. And so a lot of athletes still answer my calls, and I'm friends with them and stuff. So I was like, what if we flipped this industry upside down and made it a cool place to kind of interact, and athletes were pumped to interact with their fans rather than rolling their eyes and signing autographs oh, I got to go to this weird shop, So that was the same thing for me. It was like, all right, cool. How can I use these as a tool to interact with my community and do things in a way that has just never been done before?
And that's why I love what you're doing, right? And that's one reason that we even opened our Cards and Coffee, right? And you have Cards and Culture, because there wasn't the accessibility. There's different layers, right? There's people that have been in this a long time, and that this has been their life. They know the ins and outs. And it's the old school card shops that we all grew up on. And then a lot of those, the surviving ones are now thriving, right? Those ones that survived from the 80s, 90s, 2000s have thrived now, right? But a lot of those shut down. However, there hasn't been a ton of new entries in that, right? Not a lot of change. And that's one angle that we've tried to kind of do. Again, for me, it's about accessibility. It's about empowering. in making the next generation aware of this and giving them like a comfortable entry point, you know?
That's exactly what it is for me too. And even when I started Cards and Culture, I was like, you know what? The and culture is so important for me because alternative assets, you just start seeing the trend, right? Younger kids are interested in different things. It's attention, clout, entrepreneurship, money, right? So if I can take a shoe, if I can take a card, if I can take a painting, and they think, oh man, that's fucking dope, but I can also teach them that that's the same way that you do finances and stocks and you invest and you know, and it's a cool way to have your money appreciate. It's not just about how much it costs. It's like, oh, when you're done with the value of it, maybe you can sell it and still have some money left on it and appreciate that money too, you know?
Yeah. 100%. Now you nailed it. That's what it's all about. So
yeah, and that's why and for me too, like that's why I didn't even know that you were involved in Cards and Coffee until a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like I thought for some reason that was are you business partners with Steve Aoki?
Yeah, it's my guy.
Okay, cool. For some reason I just thought it was his venture. I didn't know that you were involved in it all. So that was pretty dope, and I was just like, man, these guys get it, right? Like that's just like, and the thing is, and I love this community too. There's still some older, you know, folks that I feel like are just like, oh, well, these young kids are coming in. But I think the new people that are coming in understand it's about collaboration. Collaboration is the new competition, right? So the more people that are in it, in their own lane, doing it their way, it just brings more people into the community. And that's really all we want overall, right?
Totally. That's what it's all about. And it makes it better for everybody, right? Like if people are always hesitant to change and DJing, when I started off on vinyl, and then when it shifted to digital, first it was CDJs, and then it was to, everything on controllers and on your computer. And so many old school DJs would complain and say, that's not real, it's not authentic, but it's like you have to evolve and with the times, and it's brought in so many things and made the culture even bigger than ever.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about coffee, Cards and Coffee. It's similar. I feel like you guys have a shop, right? I've seen the videos of it and everything. So you guys do actual breaks? What's the essence of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when the pandemic happened, I just opened a 25,000 square foot space at Dash, and we had a retail pop-up portion of it, right on the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame.
Nice.
And we made it for when artists were coming out with albums, et cetera, for them to do their merch drops. That obviously wasn't happening during that, and got connected with my guy Dan, who was actually looking to open a card shop at the W down the street. And I was thinking of turning it into like a ski sports gallery or doing something. I was like, oh, why don't you come look at our space? Like our space is way better than the W. And it just, all came together, and Aoki's a friend of both of ours. So we decided to kind of team up and launch this entire thing. And yeah, we wanted to make something that was accessible, that was fun. It was like, the undefeated, like the boutique of sports card shops, and breaks are, by far the biggest thing. And that's what our team, I think, has done so well, is just scale these up and, do them nonstop and ship them same day. And, it's, that break culture is just insane. And we've, our team has really built just a great system, but we just want to, again, do something that's bringing in the new generation, that's opening up the hobby to others and having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to talk further on some collaborations that we can do. And next time I'm in LA, I got to come see the space for sure. But dude, talk to me. All right. So talk to me a little bit about, you got all these ventures going on, and then Topps comes around. Do they approach you? Do you approach them? Is it a mutually beneficial thing? How does this work?
Yeah, so they basically, reached out to me when Project 2020 was happening to create some content with some of the creators, because they knew I was deep in the card scene, and they wanted to, help introduce and shine again, introduce the project to other people. And I thought it was just such a genius project, right?
Yeah.
Like I love, it's an intersection of everything that I love, like in everything that you're into, right? Like culture, sport. Like, we talk about it. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I remember in passing talking to them like, hey, if you guys ever do anything like this, would love to get involved. And they're like, well, next year we're looking at this thing. So when it came about, I was like, I had this vision of combining like sports and music. And I thought that's what made sense. It was just me like drawing and doing that. I don't think it would connect. People wouldn't understand why just me as a DJ was, creating art, even though it's, you go looking back to my mixtape days, that's always what I've done. Like you had to do everything front to back. And, but I thought that, I really was like, all right, I want to really combine like musical elements with these baseball players. And, it's turned out great, right? Like the cards have been doing phenomenal. I've had so much fun with it. It's added a whole new dimension to my business. And when I really jumped in heavy to the card scene, it was a new element that I wasn't even really considering that much. And it's just taken off, and now has become my prime focus in this sector. And, has led to so many other things. Like we've got a big Comic-Con dropping now. We just did stuff at Gen Con with Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering themed cards that I mixed with like a Post Malone inspiration. We just dropped this Kirby Puckett Prince card for Project 70 at the time.
Yeah.
Like, my growing up in Minnesota and actually being on the road with Prince. Prince took me on tour with him for one of his tours. And, Kirby was my first moment and made me fall in love with sports. So to be able to combine those is just like a dream come true. It's so much fun.
Dude, it sounds like it. It just sounds fun. You sound passionate. You sound excited about it. And for me, once I stumbled across, like I'd heard them, like I knew about the 2020 project, and then when Project 70 came around this year, there was just more artists that I had known, and I just thought they did a great job of literally what I got into this for, cards and culture. Like it was the perfect blend of both. I literally have a whole display case of Project 70 stuff because I think this year was so cool. It wasn't just 2020 was just 20 artists, right? Yeah. And it was just like,
they got 51 artists this year.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt like the project was just more expanded, and I just felt like it was more collaborative. When I went to the national, I just felt a lot more feels from it. And for us, one of my friends was like, "Hey dude, I'm just going to start buying these Project 7." I was like, "Please just buy as many as you can. I'll display them. I'll story tell about them. I'll market them, anything." Oh, cool. Yeah. And then once I started diving in with him and I would just nerd out every now and then, grab a beer at the end of the night here and just like talk about different ones that were coming up, different artists. Then I really started and diving in and knowing that you were doing it. And I was like, bro, I remember this guy from when I was growing up, mixtapes. Like I know the name. And then I started diving in and understanding you were really big into tech, innovation, all this stuff. And that's when I bought the Derek Jeter one live off the drop. That was my first one I actually bought live because I bought most of yours on the secondary. Yeah. And it was cool for me. Yeah. Because Jeter was my first out and strikeout in the big league. So I was like, I got to get this.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah. So that's not a bad one to have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, it's just so much fun being able to find those things and to tell those stories. And that's where I really go deep. Like I spend probably way too much time making these cards because there's so many like different layers. Like every line is pretty much there for a reason. It represents something else. And a lot of things that people aren't going to see, like even like looking at the Kirby card, like there's smoke behind him that's mimicking like the Purple Rain cover, but the smoke is in the shape of angel wings, right? Like, So there's like little tributes. Of course, there's like a guitar and a Purple Rain umbrella behind it. We have the First Avenue wall with Prince's star, but then there's a picture of Kirby jumping with next to his number, and that represents the outfield from the Metrodome that had the circle baseballs with the numbers. So there's like all these layers as you peel away with it. And it's just so much fun digging in the weeds with that. And that's what we want, like to create those stories. And I love this project. I love these art cards. I think that there's something special. I think people are going to look back on, especially 2020, because it was the first one, and just, it's going to be the moment that got a lot of people back into cards and introduced it to a lot of people. Like the best compliment that I get, I remember even walking around the National or walking around different places, and people are like, this got me back into cards, or this is the first card that I've bought, like kids telling me that. It's just so cool. And, for me, I'm trying to do, it's my two loves, right? Like music and sports, and to be able to combine those and put them together in like an art, really cool curated thing with a great brand is just phenomenal.
I like it because you just see the genius of so many different walks of life, right? Like the fact that you are taking it and spinning it with music. Maybe Lauren Taylor's doing her illustrations in the city background, right? Blake's putting his spin on it, and like you just have all these different expressions of the exact same guys, the exact same player in the exact same city. But that's what, to me, what art is, right? And that's why my whole place is filled with art. And like I love talking to the artists. Hey, what was the idea behind this? What went into this? I know what I'm creating in my head, but what did you create in yours? And that's collaboration, that's community, that's interesting to me, and that's growth and learning. And to me, like music's always been my other thing, right? I played sports and it was my pump up, it was my escape, whether it was the thing that got me going or if it was the thing that calmed me down, music was the thing. So to even hear you say that there's little intricacies in each card that relate to music or the city or the person or your story was like fascinating to me. And I think was it the Mike Trout one that was on like a iconic? Was it the Straight Outta?
My plaque.
Was it
one of my coolest pieces? I have Dre's plaque from Chronic in Doggy Style, and it was a platinum plaque for that. We bought and I have an investment fund. We bought the $1 million. We spent $1 million. We announced that day on the Mike Trout 1-of-1 platinum card. Platinum is 1 million record sales. So like all these things came together, right? So we're like, hey, let's make it off this platinum plaque. California Love is what one of the albums that Dre worked on. Obviously, and is on the song with Pac. So just like it all came together for that. So, and
it's storytelling. That's what I'm like. I have 10 of those cards, and every time somebody walks into the shop and they're like, "What is this?" All right, let me tell you, motherfucker. Like, sit down. Like, that's the thing that
I work so hard to put together like these videos and to do this like these crazy rollouts and really cool things. And we released that at the National, like at the timing of the announcement when we bought the card, and actually had it on display with the $1 million card, right? So it's just. there's so many cool intricacies and levels and layers to that. And, one of Dre's producers, my guy Fred Reck, who's OG legend and stuff. He's been even like, I just gave him a bunch of the cards and stuff. He loves the whole connections of them. So it's awesome.
It is, man. And that, like you said, you're bringing people in that might not know who Mike Trout is or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, but they know who DJ Skee is. They know who like it doesn't matter. And that's what blends it perfectly. And then you just tell them, oh, this is the best baseball player ever who's on this card with this. And it's cool. And it's like, oh shit. All right, cool. We got something here.
100%. That's what's so fun. Like, I love that people are buying certain ones. Like we just did the Toronto one with Drake, and people are buying it just because they love Toronto and Drake. And, they're getting introduced to Vladdy as he's, only his third season. So still a newer player. And for people that aren't hardcore baseball fans, it's great to play that role and connect the dots and bridge the gap. And that's what I've always done as a DJ. It's introducing talent, introducing records, kind of introducing new things to the world. So it's been such just a dream project.
Yeah. And from an investment standpoint too, like people come into my shop and I want to make sure that they leave here with valuable information. So for me, confidently speaking, I always point them to Project70 stuff. Cause I'm like, look, this is one of your most safe investments. You have the player's career, you got the cultural reference, whatever's on the card, right? And then you have the artist career too, and their storytelling ability. So you got 3 or 4 or 5 different avenues to make this card, worth the investment. And again, it's not a crazy investment, but it's something that could appreciate over time. You can storytell, you can connect the dots with, and that's what we're all here for. It's fucking insane.
I love it. And like, look, there's so many cards coming out this year, it's tough for people to keep up. So I think that, over time, and like, look, obviously I'm biased because I'm in the project, but I'm buying stuff personally. I think it's great. I'm still buying Project 2020. I think that's going to, and I'm not involved in that. I think it's just going to continue to go up, especially because that was kind of the first one. So I just love the concept of this. And I think once more people get into the game and see this, and the designs are incredible too. Like it's so much fun. The cards are like, they're like pieces of art that you can frame and hang. They're not just, things that you can, small little pieces. They're big, 130 point stock, especially when you get into the foils and the APs and that whole game. It's super fun.
It is. And honestly, Cards and Culture, we're going to take a page out of that playbook and do something more intimate with athletes, the NIL stuff, and where athletes can make, or college athletes can make money off their name, image, and likeness. Art cards are kind of designed perfectly for that. I do have a corporate sponsorship here with LSU, so we can use their logo, but for the most part, we're promoting the athlete, right? So if I can connect an athlete with a famous artist or a well-known artist or an artist that they aspire or really like to be like or look up to their work, now you have the artist working with the athlete to create 1 of 1 or 1 of 10 or 1 of 50 memorabilia, right, during their time, and they sign it, and the fans are connected with their community a little bit more. So for me, like I thought this idea was great, and I was like, you know what, I want to be able to do this with athletes where they're proud of their rookie card too. Like imagine if I got to design my rookie card versus some slapdick picture of me pitching on the mound,
Dude, I love that idea.
Yeah.
So dope, dude. And it means so much more, and it's that storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Versus like an awkward picture of you on a Bowman, right? Like,
exactly. I can't tell you how many rookie cards I fucking hate of me. I'm like, why did they pick this picture? Like, why wouldn't they call me and be like, hey, can we, do you care that we're going to print this 15,000 times of you?
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, and I love that idea. And that's why, there's a lot of change going on, right? Like it's a crazy time right now in the hobby, and I think it's for good, and that's why there's going to be so many new things and so many new ways to get in. So yeah.
I think it would be so cool if like a superstar worked with a famous like imagine if Mike Trout was like, hey guys, for the rest of my career, I'm actually not letting Panini or Topps print any of my cards, and I'm only working with DJ Skee. Imagine how much more valuable those cards become, right?
Crazy, right? Yeah. And then you're going to start seeing some crazy off the wall stuff like that soon, especially given like some of those deals. Like, don't be surprised if that starts happening for certain things or players or brands. Like it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of change coming soon.
Absolutely. Especially when athletes are in control of their own market and they have a huge following, right? Like it's like, I don't need your attention anymore, Panini and Topps. I got my own, and this artist is famous and he's got a huge network too. He or she, like, boom, game over, right? Yeah.
100%, like you said, you're buying into the network of that. And like, I have no plan on letting up, right? Like I just want to deliver value for, all the people that are holding my cards and doing those things. So I'm aggressively doing things. We did a huge thing with Comic-Con with Beyond Sports cards. With the Twins, we teamed up and did a whole bag with Herschel Supply Company and a 4-part like capsule drop to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the 91 World Series championship, which in my eyes is the greatest World Series ever. And that's what got me into sports. And, doing those things for the hometown, and then doing things like with Marvel at Comic-Con with some of these incredible brands is just, phenomenal. So I'm not letting up. We've got a crazy roadmap and plan for the next couple of years. So I always tell people like, yeah, I'm biased, but I'm going to work my butt off to deliver all the value that I can for you for it. So.
Hell yeah, I love hearing that. And if there are any LSU athletes that cross your mind, we are the official collectible partner of the LSU sports. So if there's anything that ever crosses your mind, want to come check out an LSU football game, we could probably do some really dope shit down here too in the shop.
We got to do something. My guy, purple and gold, right? Like our star player right now is the LSU guy.
Exactly. I know.
Neil there too, right?
Huh? Who?
Neil Hunter went there, I think, too, right?
Yes. Yep. That's what I'm saying. We got a lot of LSU up there, and hey, we got our LSU people are huge in the league too.
We've got to figure some stuff out. 100%. I'm in. I love it.
All right, cool. Well, we'll definitely chat about that. But let's let our listeners know what's on deck for you coming up. You have a Project70 card coming out this week. How many more you got left?
Yeah, we're taping this right now, so that drops it'll probably be out by the time people have heard this. It's just the Kirby Puckett Prince one, which was like the one when I signed on. That was the first one that I knew I was doing. Being from Minnesota, being growing up around Kirby, it just made so much sense. And like the coincidentals, there's so many eerie coincidences. Puckett's debut in Major League Baseball was 1984, the same year that Purple Rain came out and Prince took over the world. Like they grew up in Minneapolis at the same, they came up in Minneapolis at that same era, that same time. They were both so instrumental in my careers, and the best musician I've ever worked with is Prince. The best, the guy that got me into sports was Kirby Puckett. His heroics in the '91 World Series that got me into it. So to combine those is great. We've got a bunch more drops coming with Topps. I think there's going to be a lot more as we round out Project70, and even beyond that, you'll see some other fun stuff. I'm dropping my own cards and like even doing the companions that have been going crazy on DJSkee.com, and it's been selling out. So sign up for our list if you want to get updated and have a chance to grab some of those. And yeah, bunch of fun, cool collabs. We've got Comic-Con stuff that we did. It's going to be great. We've got some stuff coming up in November. It's going to be a busy year. So
yeah, it sounds like it, man. I got to get some of those cards, and we got to get some stuff in the shop of yours, definitely. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I'm going to come down and see it, man. It looks phenomenal.
Dude,
I love what you're doing, like combining cards and culture, right? Like that's what it's all. That's really like the crux of everything that I do in this space. So it's so perfect, and it's great to have other people out there doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just felt like with I had so many connections in so many different worlds, and that's what it is. It's your network, right? And that's where I just wanted to be able to blend it. And also too, I was an athlete. My story is a little bit. I was a highly touted athlete out of LSU. I was a first round pick, but I never wound up being the guy that the Red Sox drafted me, right? So my story is I was lucky that I treated people right. I was professional along the way, and I made network. I was lucky that I played in a college where I made network connections, and I was able to come back to and start some business and have some success after my career didn't work out the way that everybody told me it was, and every kid is going through that right now at LSU, right? Everybody's patting them on the back saying you're going to be the next God's gift to the world, right? And that's not going to be the reality for a lot of kids. So even the NIL stuff that I'm doing here, I really do believe that I feel like I'm giving them a blueprint to teach themselves about their brand, about networking, teaching, people how to treat people right and networks. That way, when you come back here, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, you're going to come back as an LSU athlete, and you want to be able to have doors that are open and treat people right and have them remember how you treated them, and while you were on top of the world. So all this stuff is meaningful work for me and a lot of fun. And
look, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? It's not we always have these visions of where our journey is going to be. I thought it was going to be in a lot different place, and now it all comes together in different ways. So like you're exactly where everything's worked out how it's supposed to, and and like you said, you have to plan and prepare and do good, and you'll be there. That's how I've survived. And look, the entertainment business, you're not supposed to be at the average artist length of a career is a couple of years, right? So same with sports, and it's how you treat people and do those things, and that's why we have that long term success in business and working with good people.
Absolutely, man. Well, good shit. I feel like I could talk to you all day, but I feel like I'm taking a lot of your time. So,
dude, no, you're good. We'll do it again, and I got to come down and see the shop, man. I want to see it in person.
I would love that. But let our listeners know where the best place is to find you, whether that's social media, your website, all that. I'll put it in the show notes for sure. But let everybody know where the best place to find you is.
Absolutely. Just follow me at DJ Skee on all social media. DJSkee.com is the easiest. Sign up for our list because we'll keep you guys posted with there. I have a super active Discord. My Discord is incredible. They're giving away things to people. Like people are giving away like crazy shit. Like somebody got a gold 1-of-1 Project71. They hooked another member up. Like it's just nuts. So discord.gg/Skee. Yeah, and we're doing giveaways all the time. It's just a really great community, especially if you're into cards and sports and culture and kicks and cars and everything else. It's really fun. So join us there. And if not, come see me at a Vikings game or anywhere else. Any of the shows, come say hi to me.
Shit, I need to get in there with Cards and Culture. So that's awesome, man. Yeah, well, hopefully they'll be able to see you in Baton Rouge, Louisiana sometime. But again, DJ Skee, thank you so much for your time, man. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, brother.
No problem. Have a great one, dude.
Peace.